Hello, everyone. Um, I hope I'm audible to everyone. And it's time, so let's get started. And hopefully, people will keep joining us. Um, so, starting off this webinar with a small introduction about my own self. So, you must be wondering, who am I? I'm Paulami Chaudhary. I am actually from Mumbai, India, and that's where I was born and brought up, and that's where I completed my master's. And I specialized in counseling psychology. So the way I like to think about myself is I'm actually a psychologist by qualification, but I'm a teacher by profession. And I worked as a career counselor for adolescents uh, for about 5, 6 years. I also had my own private practice as a therapist, and I was teaching. Um, in terms of teaching, I have taught for 7 years. This is my seventh year going on right now. And I have taught the Indian curriculum, ISC. I have taught in international curriculums the ASA levels as well as IBDP, psychology and theory of knowledge. And I'm an IBDP examiner. What am I doing currently? I'm currently in Sweden. Uh, I'm teaching, or I should say, I'm doing online tutoring for students of the IBDP curriculum. I've also coached students who take the AP examination, and I'm also tutoring students for ASA levels. Currently, I'm also supervising students, high school students who want to do a secondary research paper on psychology. And I'm hoping to study some more next year, so fingers crossed for that. What is, I'm so glad to see so many of you joining us for the webinar. And just to give you a brief overview of what this webinar will include is basically there will be three parts to that webinar. In the first section, I'll be talking a little bit about what is a Psych IA all about, right? And taking you through some of the absolute uh, criteria that IB has about an Psych IA. Second section would be me taking you through the IB mark band, okay? And it seems quite vague and it's almost like a mysterious object which is only used by examiners. But I think that when students um, know it and they use it to create their report, that is when they are able to create a really strong IA. So I'll be helping you decode that. And the third section would be where I take you through uh, an actual psych IA that has got grade 7, right? And help you see how you can apply those mark bands to a criteria and how a psychology examiner, right? Somebody who is going through your IAs, how do they mark your IAs, right? Because the fact of the matter is an examiner spends close to just 5 to 7 minutes marking per IA. So you are putting in a lot of work, but an experienced examiner is judging it very quickly. And that's why it's important that you are able to meet all the criteria and you don't lose any marks. So let's get started. A psychology IA. Now, a psychology IA is very unique in the IB because it is something that the IB expects you to do in a group, right? So it's an experimental investigation which is conducted in a group, and the IA is basically internally marked and externally moderated. What does that mean is that your school teacher is going to be marking your IA and giving it a certain mark, right? And then the IB calls for a few samples which are randomly selected from your entire grade, and that is sent for moderation. Now, if the marks get moderated down, then everyone's marks get moderated down in the entire grade. And if your marks are moderated up, then everyone's marks improves, right? So an experimental investigation, which means that you have to actually conduct an experiment, which is so exciting for students who are just around 16 and 17 years old, as everyone is really excited about conducting an psychology experiment, especially. So you must be knowing an experiment is something that has an independent variable and a dependent variable. So an independent variable is the one which you manipulate, right? When I say you, I mean the researcher manipulates, and the dependent variable is the variable which you are measuring, right? So you're seeing the impact of the independent variable on the dependent variable. IB has a very strict criteria for an IA, which says that you need to have one independent variable with only one dependent variable. Okay. Now, this can get quite complicated because as you look for studies to replicate in your IA, you will find researches which are much more complex than what IB expects you to do, right? So it might have multiple independent variables and multiple dependent variables. But what IB expects you to do is only replicate one independent variable with one dependent variable. Okay. Just to give you a quick example, I've given an example on the screen, which is if you have group A, so the experiment I'm designing is where you have two groups. You will have group A who will read a list of 5-syllable words and 2-syllable words with a distractor task in between, reading the words and recalling them. And I'll have group B who will also read a list of 5-syllable words and 2-syllable words and who will not have a distractor task in between them reading the list of words and recalling them. Now, if you think about it, it might just seem like the only difference between the two groups is the fact that there is one group has a distractor task, the other one does not. But the fact of the matter is that this experiment has two independent variables. One is the number of syllables in the word, so a 5-syllable word versus 2-syllable word, and the other one is distractor task versus no distractor task. So this means it is sometimes very easy to overlook the fact that you have multiple independent variables in your study, but you just need to be really, really clear. Okay. Um, the another unique feature of psychology IA is the fact that it needs to be done in a group. Now, that can be quite confusing because what is the group for? So the entire purpose of the group is uh, only for data collection because on an average, you have to collect the data of about 10 to 15 participants. And IB realizes that it can get quite time consuming for students, which is why it wanted to split the responsibility of data collection. So the purpose of the group is only and only for data collection, not for writing the report at all. So your report needs to be written only by you. It needs to be unique, right? And except for the procedure, which obviously you share with your group, nothing else should be very similar to the report of any of your group members. In terms of weightage, the IA for higher level students is worth 20% of their grade, and for standard level is worth 25% of the total grade, right? So these are marks which are totally in your hand. There's no reason to lose out on your IA marks at all. And one thing which the batch of May 2020 will be able to share with everybody is the fact that because they did not have an examination, their marks were calculated only based on their IA and the PG grades that they had. And often, because IA is something that students don't take seriously, a lot of them were actually adversely affected by it, right? Um, and that's why it's important that you take your IA seriously because you just never know what might happen. And I think 2020 has taught us that. Sorry. So what kind of experiments can you do and what can't you do? And the IB is really strict about it. So, uh, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Um, Sorry, I thought I couldn't hear anyone. Okay, anyway, I'll continue. So, according to the IB, your independent variable cannot be gender, age, native language, culture, education level, socioeconomic status, or handedness. And what do they mean by that? You cannot have an experiment which essentially says you want to compare um, memory ability of males versus females. So where your independent variable becomes the gender, right? Male or female. You cannot have a comparison between, say, 15 and 16-year-olds and say 40 and 41-year-olds. So even variables like this are actually not considered independent variable because it does not is not considered a lab experiment, and you cannot have a variable like that. If you end up doing an IA with an independent variable such as gender, age, culture, education level, or handedness, it will be disqualified. So you have to keep that in mind. And in addition, IB is actually very particular about the ethics involved in conducting an experiment on human beings. So IB says you cannot do any experiment where you're looking at the placebo effect or giving any kind of placebo to participants or getting them to ingest or inhale anything, and it includes food and it includes coffee, right? So you cannot say that I want to see the effect of caffeine on memory recall, for example. That's not allowed. You are also not allowed to deprive of participants of any of the key needs that a human being has, which is sleep or food, right? So now the question remains that now we know what we are not allowed to do, then what are we allowed to do in a psych IA? In a psych IA, the best experiments that you can get will come from the cognitive approach. So when I say cognitive approach, I mean memory, thinking, decision making, attention, right? Because these are the kind of experiments that are usually very easy to replicate in a lab setting, in a school setting, and will not have very complicated materials for you to create, or will not basically be something that is unethical, right? And so one tip which I can give you is, if you have the Oxford Course Companion with you, which some schools use as a textbook, if you have that with you, just go to the chapter which says cognitive approach, and there are so many experiments which are explored there, and actually most of the experiments there can be replicated by you. The only other thing would be that the original studies might have multiple independent variables with multiple dependent variables. So that's the only thing that you would have to be very careful about, because IB requires you to have only one independent variable with one dependent variable. So be careful about that. Also, another thing that happens is that often researchers might end up using material which are too complex for you to use or to make, right? For example, any kind of experiment where it says like you need to do brain scans, or you need to create, say, an inverted human face to see how much time do people take to react to it or identify their own face which is inverted, suppose. Now something like that might actually end up taking a lot of time, and you might not have the resources for it. So it's best to look for experiments where the resources or the material that you need to create your material for the experiment is not very complicated. So the questions you have to ask yourself when you're looking for an experiment is, has it been published in a peer-reviewed journal? Which is why if you look at experiments from your textbook, you are sorted there because the textbooks would have only experiments that have been in peer-reviewed journals. Are there any other research papers supporting the study that you want to replicate? Can the independent and dependent variable actually be operationalized? And what I mean by operationalized is, can it be measured? How would you act if I say I want to study memory? Well, memory is an abstract concept. How will you check for memory, right? So you could say, I'll check for how many words can people remember from a list of words. So that's operationalization essentially. Can it be conducted in a classroom or school setup? And especially now, I think with a lot of schools being online, the requirement is becoming that the IAs be conducted online. And that's kind of important. And I'll, in a minute, show you some examples of experiments which you can replicate. And how much time will it take for you to conduct each experiment? So again, try not to take an experiment where it's taking you a lot of time to conduct per participant. Plus, if each participant has to do an experiment for, say, an hour, they will get fatigued. right? And we don't want that. So some of the topics which I've just put up here where you can replicate it, and all these topics are very easily replicable online, would be something like where you're looking at, how many words can be remembered, or you're looking at, the Loftus and Palmer experiment where you make people watch a video of a car crash and then you give them a questionnaire. Right now, this is something that is easily replicable um, in even in an online setup, because all you have to do is share your screen, make them watch the video, and either you can create a Google form and send it to them, or you can just ask them the questions and write out the answer. Simple enough, it can be done online. So we'll be sharing with you the topics that you can kind of use for your IA. Obviously, this is not a like exhaustive list, but it will give you some idea of what you can replicate and what you cannot replicate. Next section that we'll be talking about is I want to take you through the mark band that the examiners use to mark your IA. And this is really, really important because once you understand this, you essentially know the structure of your IA. A question which obviously students have is, um, yeah, I got it theoretically, you're telling me this is the mark band, but what does my IA really have to look like? And all I can tell you is it's literally this. So your heading needs to be introduction. What needs to be in your introduction is what is given in your mark band. So the aim of the investigation, the relevance of your investigation, a theory or a model on which you have based your investigation, the link between the theory and your investigation, the independent variable, dependent variable, null hypothesis, and research hypothesis. So that is pretty much how you want to structure your introduction. Okay. Now, the very important thing, if you note that the difference between a 3 and a 4 and a 5 and a 6, right, is sometimes students write the investigation, what the aim of the investigation is, but they don't explain what the relevance is. What is meant by relevance here is all examiners want to see is can you find one application for your research. Okay, it could be a unique application. Sometimes students are very creative and they are able to think of applications which maybe teachers are not thinking of, or it could be something that is very well published in research. Okay, so, for example, if you do the Loftus and Palmer experiment and you show that our memory is basically reconstructive nature and post-event information can have an influence on our memory. So, a very clear application for this is in eyewitness testimony, which can be used in courts. So, you want to write down one very concrete example of why the research is important, not a vague example, not just hinting at something, a concrete example. A mistake which students do here is also they end up writing the original research paper. Okay, so they go to great lengths to write the original research paper. But this is not going to get you marks because the expectation is that you describe a theory or a model. So the marks you don't get for writing the original research paper, you only get marks if you're writing the theory or the model. Okay. So every research will have some kind of theoretical backing to it, and you need to describe that theory. Another thing which students miss out here is the link. So very rarely do we see an IA where this line is actually used. The link between the theory and this investigation is, and that's what you want to create. You want to create a link like that and say that how we can see the investigation testing out the theory that you have mentioned. You also want to have your independent dependent variable, which should be operationalized. So how are you going to manipulate it and how you're going to measure it? And you need to write your research and null hypothesis. And the research and null hypothesis has to be directional unless there is not very strong research which tells you in which direction it should be, your hypothesis should be going. Okay, but obviously since you will be basing it on some kind of research which is already done, you should look at what the original research has found and your hypothesis should also be stated similarly. Moving on to the exploration, which is for 4 marks, and these are the easiest 4 marks you can possibly get in your entire IA. What IB expects you to write and the format it expects you to write is in the mark band. Okay, so it says research design, sampling technique, choice of participants, control variables, choice of material. You basically need to have 5 paragraphs. That's all you need to do in your exploration. 5 paragraphs, 1 paragraph addressing each. But you will see the difference between one and a two and a three and a four, right? Is one and two has the word describe. So at the end of research design is describe, sampling technique is describe. So what is the difference that often students miss out? It's a very tiny thing, but students end up missing out this point is that when it is an explanation, the idea is to say why. Okay, so for example, if I was to tell you, you know, why are you late? So when I'm saying why are you late, I'm essentially asking you I'm asking you for a reason, right? I'm asking you why, what happened, what is the reasoning behind you coming late. Now that is an example of a why, right? Whereas a description will always lead to a how and a what answer. Like we'll be answering a how and a what, right? So if I say how do you go from say Singapore to US, right? Now that's it's going to be a description. So when you're looking at the research design sampling technique, the idea is not to just describe what you have done, right? And or describe what a research design is or what a sampling technique is, but rather why did you use it? So here you're kind of taking the examiner through your thought process of why it is justified the research design that you have used. Okay. Later on, when I show you a sample IE, I'll show you how students write it. Uh, Moving on. Next part, analysis. And analysis is actually the part where most students end up losing a lot of marks, essentially because they don't have a very strong understanding of what statistics needs to be used to analyze their data. Okay. Uh, there is an expectation that your teacher should be teaching you how to do the statistics, or at least what statistics should be used for what kind of data. So it's very important that that decision that you make, that what descriptive statistics you will use and what inferential statistics will you use, is the most important decision that you're making in terms of analysis. Because if that goes wrong, well, you will end up losing marks here. Okay. So if you look at the mark band, it says descriptive and inferential statistics are appropriate and have been appropriately applied. So that means that you have made the right choices and you have applied it appropriately to the data that you have collected from the participants. The graph is correctly presented and addresses the hypothesis. So again, the connection with the hypothesis that you've written in the introduction should always be there, and the graph has to reflect the hypothesis. So, for example, if you're saying that uh, uh, participants who have a distracted task between reading a list of words and recalling a list of words, right, would recall less words as compared to a group who just reads the list of words and immediately recalls it. So just logically, the graph should essentially have two bars, one which would reflect the data, the average number of words recalled by the group where they did not have a distractor task in between. The other bar should have the average results of the group where they did have a distractor task. That's common sensical, but sometimes students miss out on these details. And the way you label your graph needs to be correct and in line with your hypothesis. And statistical findings are interpreted with regard to the data and are linked to the hypothesis. So again, whatever result you get needs to be written in words. Sometimes students are like, oh, I've put a table and that's pretty much it. No, it needs to be written in words. It also needs to be tied into the hypothesis. So the results that you have got, is it supporting the hypothesis? Is it not supporting the hypothesis? What is happening? That needs to be given, okay, in your analysis. And then we have the evaluation. So think of it this way, right? Till this point, you have showed the examiner that you know the theory, that you have created a hypothesis, you have tested the hypothesis, you got the data, you analyzed the data, you saw whether the hypothesis was supported or not supported. Great. The evaluation is the part where the examiner kind of wants to see that can you look back on your experiment and see what strengths and limitations your experiment had and how it had an impact on the findings. Okay. Um, so the examiner expects you to have the strengths and limitation of design, sample, procedure, um, and wants you to explain it. Okay, so all three are important. And the most important thing in a evaluation is the first half. But often students end up doing the same mistake what I said in introduction. They end up connecting it to the original experiment. They say that in the original experiment, the findings was ABC, I got XYZ, it's line, it's not in line. That's not the expectation. The connection has to be with the theory. Okay, so do your findings support the theory? Do your findings not support the theory? That is what the examiner wants to read. Okay. Again, the question students have is how should I structure my evaluation, right? It's given in your mark band. First paragraph, your connect your findings to the theory. Second paragraph, one strength, one limitation plus one modification of the design. Third paragraph, one strength, one limitation, and one modification of your sample. Fourth paragraph, one strength, one limitation, and one modification of the procedure. Ensure that all of it is actually tied to your investigation and not random points that you're making, right? And that is the expectation. And conclusion will literally be just one line about whether your findings support the hypothesis or not. That's it. That's the only expectation. So if you are wondering how am I supposed to structure my IA, this is there in your syllabus guide. It's taken from your syllabus guide. Open the syllabus guide, look at it, the points and the points that are given in the mark band. Just follow that structure, and you will be sorted. Um, I thought that it would be a good idea to take you through a sample IA, which has got a grade 7, and just talk you through what an examiner is thinking as they are looking at any kind of IA. So the student has done an experiment on the Stroop effect. I hope you are familiar with what the Stroop effect is. The Stroop effect basically says that when there is conflicting stimuli, it has an effect on our response time. So, for example, if you have the word blue written in ink green, okay, and I ask you to tell me what color is the word written in, right? So essentially, I'm saying I expect you to say green. What it is seen is that people take longer time because naming the color is a slower process in human beings as compared to reading. Reading is the more automatic process that human beings engage in, and obviously this only applies to people who are literate and people who can read that language, right? Otherwise, it would not make sense. So this is the IA the student did, and you can see that the student is clearly identifying what experiment has been replicated. And the original study basically had, I think, 3 or 4 studies in it, so which study is being replicated. And you can see that the student has actually connected it to the theory. So like I was telling you in the introduction, the important part is to connect it to the theory and not spend time explaining the original study. There is no point. Okay, since you will be putting the original study in your bibliography, the examiner can very well go and look at the original study themselves. So no point wasting your words here. Then you have the Stroop effect. I wanted to show you what a relevance looks like, right? So whatever topic you choose, it will be of some kind of relevance. Psychology is just a subject like that, where there is some or the other application to it. So the student has kind of spoken about how Stroop effect can be applied. So similarly, you have to think of what is my topic, what is my finding, and where can I apply it. For example, if you say, okay, my finding shows that music has a positive impact on memory, short-term memory recall, then I mean, it can be applied to students, right? Like you can get students to listen to music right before the exam and read some information. And the hypothesis would be that they will be able to recall that information much better during the examination. So that's an application. Think of the application of your IA. And then you have the research hypothesis and null hypothesis. And even though here the student has not operationalized the independent variable, which is congruent condition and the incongruent condition, the student does it later on and identifies the independent variable and dependent variable. So as you can see, the structure is not very like, is not revolutionary. It is just following the mark band. Coming to the exploration, again, you would either be using an independent measures design or a repeated measures design. And obviously, because match pair design is kind of hard for you guys to do at this point of time. Uh, so more than just identifying the design, that is important. I do want you to identify it, but more than that, it needs to be justified. So basically, what is to be gained by doing a repeated measures design? What is to be gained by doing an independent measures design, right? And why did you choose it? So there needs to be a strong and appropriate justification. So again, like I told you that in the exploration, just follow the mark bands, because it says, I think, design, sample, choice of material, choice of participants. So you know that those are going to be your paragraphs. Okay, so similarly, like what material has been used, how it was created, why did you use it? And the one thing which the mark band actually does not mention, but which is something that examiners have been told to look for, is the fact that what ethical consideration was applied. So, for example, obviously you would give them a consent form, right? So there is informed consent. But did you inform them that they have the right to withdraw? Did you assure them that there would be no physical or psychological harm that would come to them? Did you tell them that they would have access to the data, right? So I mean, uh, the fact that you did it actually has to be mentioned in your exploration. The mark band does not mention it, but yeah, examiners expect it in your exploration. Coming to the analysis, again, I'm not going to go too much into detail of what the student has done. This is just for you to see what an IA looks like. But essentially, you need to be able to identify what is the level of measurement of your data. So, is it nominal? Is it ratio scale? Is it interval scale? And a justification of the descriptive statistics and inferential statistics that you have used. Obviously, if the inferential and descriptive statistics that you have used is incorrect, well, then your analysis itself will become incorrect. So be very careful about that. Again, this is just to point out to you that a graph has to reflect the hypothesis, right? And it needs to be appropriately labeled, because sometimes we see graphs which are not labeled, or the x and the y has kind of been interchanged, and it's that is what will lead you to losing your marks. Inferential statistics, again, uh, you know what statistics you end up using is dependent on what data you have collected. So the justification of the inferential statistics needs to be absolutely right? Why it was used, and again, the findings that you have got have to be mentioned in words, okay, and again have to be tied with the findings. Sorry, with the hypothesis. Coming back to the evaluation, like I told you, if you are confused about, oh my God, how do I structure my IA, just follow the mark band criteria, and follow that. So it says connection to the theory. Then you have strength and limitation for design, procedure, sample, if I'm not missing anything. Yeah. So you just make sure you have one paragraph of one strength, one limitation, one modification for sample, and each of your paragraphs should follow pretty much that structure. So again, if you see, the IA here is clearly connecting the findings of the study and saying that the results support the selective attention theory, right? Um, Again, repeated measures design was used, and what did it lead to? So the evaluation is basically you're looking at implications, right? You made certain choices in your exploration. What is that leading to? It you have to write in the evaluation. So again, sample, procedure, right? Again, bibliography is really important. It needs to be either APA or MLA. Whichever one you use, it has to be consistently applied throughout your report. And what you have to mention in your bibliography is from where did you take the material, and also any site that you're using to calculate your data. Okay, that needs to be mentioned. So this is an example of an informed consent form. There is no standardized sort of like pattern to it. If you go online, there are a lot of good informed consent forms which are used, like Harvard and Stanford, and all of theirs is actually available online. You can just modify those for your purposes. And the most important thing with an informed consent form is that the participant knows their rights, right? And also an important thing with the IA is that the participant has to be 16-year-old. And if your participants are less than 16, then you need to get parent consent to take them into your experiment. You need to attach your briefing notes. So what instructions did you give them? Your debriefing notes, which is after your experiment got over, what did you inform them the study was about, and how did you kind of ensure that they were in an okay state of mind and that they did not have any questions. You need to put in all your material, all the material that you have used. You need to put in your raw data table. The raw data table has to be anonymized. So basically, ideally, you should not be collecting any participant detail, identifying details, for example, their name and all, even when you're conducting the experiment. But even if you do, when you're when you're writing your report, it should not be mentioned. Um, and this is an online statistics calculator. So there is socialsciencestatistics.com, if I'm not mistaken, which you can use to calculate your data. In some schools, teachers do teach students how to do the statistics by hand, which is great. But if you are a little bit mathematically challenged like I am, then let's use the technology that's available. IB says it's absolutely fine for students to use an online calculator for their statistics. And yeah, so that's it. And I hope this was helpful. And if you have any questions, I would be very happy to answer them right now. You can either put it in the chat, or I think you can unmute yourself and ask me. Avril, I hand it over to you.
Yeah, Avril
Or
left.
Harsh.
So it's basically, if you guys have any questions, feel free to type it in the chat, and then we'll wait for like 5 to 10 minutes. And if you guys don't have any questions, that's perfectly okay as well. You can basically DM us on Instagram and ask more questions regarding the webinar. And regarding, I think there's one question in the chat regarding the recording for the webinar, and we're still not sure because we might be facing some copyright issues. But yeah, the recording might be up, or the recording might not be up. So yeah, we'll let you know.
Okay.
Any
I think there's one question which was basically, why is the weightage different for HL and SL?
yeah,
So it's different because yeah, I think somebody answered, but HL has an extra paper which they attempt. It's paper 3, which is attempted by the HL students, which is why the IA has slightly less weightage for them. But SL have only 2 external papers that they write along with the IA. So that's how they have.
there's this other question in the chat. Will this presentation be sent to us? Yes, this presentation will be emailed to every single one who attended this webinar. Yeah, missed this other question.
Can we use experiment that has multiple IVs and DVs and change it so that it, yes, you have to. You have to. The criteria actually says that you can modify. And when we say modify, what we mean is you will have to make it a one independent variable with one dependent variable. Yes, you can change it. You must. Any other question regarding any specific topic? What are some IA topics? Harshit, I think you'll be emailing the ones who have attended, right? The IA topics.
Yes, we'll be emailing you a list of research papers that you can basically use for your IA topics. So that shouldn't be a problem. And basically, if you want more research software, you can basically go to scholar.google.com to search for more research papers regarding psychology. And there's this
Yeah,
last question. Could you please explain yeah.
operationalization. Okay, so operationalization is essentially how do you measure? See, in psychology, the concepts that we are learning are actually abstract concepts. For example, if I say memory, right? What is memory? Can I see memory? I cannot see memory, right? I can only see, ultimately, I can only see behaviors. So, what I mean by operationalization is that how will you measure it? So, if I'm saying memory, how do you measure it? If you say attention, how do you measure attention, right? So, what is the way in which that particular independent variable or dependent variable is actually getting measured? Dia, does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Okay, I'm just gonna see if she answers a little later. Okay, Arushi. Okay, Dia, great. Does the theory that we link our investigation have to be one from the guide or one we have learned in class? No, no, there's no requirement like that. Like I said, that it is for the ease of you to find a theory and a topic. You can look at something in the textbook, but there could be other researches out there which might not be in the textbook, which you can replicate. But again, just keep in mind those criteria that I went through, right? It should be replicable. There should, like, all the ethics of it, stuff like that. Just keep that in mind. I hope I have answered your question, Arushi. Um, yeah, Jody, is when you write the introduction, only a brief description and explanation of the original study is needed. Would we need to write a sentence? Um, See, in my experience, even the ones who have not written a single word of the original study, okay, also get high marks because you have a word limit of 1800 to 2200 words, which is not a whole lot of words. Okay, it's very, I would say, like, IB is really pushing you guys. So it's a very tight sort of word limit, okay? Which is why don't waste your time with the original study, because obviously the examiners know it's a replication, so which means the original study will be something similar to the ones you have replicated. And you will have to, however, link the original study in your bibliography. So if the examiner is very curious and it's something very unique, then we do go through your bibliography. We will find the original study, go through the original study, see if you have replicated it correctly or not, and check for that. So that the examiner will do. Jody, I hope I answered your question. Okay, great. Any other questions regarding your IA?
Yeah, I think it's good. It was good.
Okay.
I thank every single one who attended this webinar. It was a pleasure having you on board. Yeah, I'll end the meeting now, and I'll DM you guys about the recording, and I'll email you all the content that we had in the presentation today. Thanks a lot for your time, guys. Have a good one. Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye, guys. Bye.
One sec. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, perfect. Yeah, you're welcome, guys. Bye bye.